All right, now because we did a worksheet just like this for the previous class, I'll just give you a shorter introduction to this worksheet. It should look very similar, except we don't have a long, ridiculous story problem to go with it. So here what we're looking at is simply what is the relationship between our known variable, here it's IQ. Remember, our known or predictor variable always goes on that x-axis, and the criterion variable, the unknown variable. Here, it's GPA. So let's say we've given 5 people an IQ test and we've measured their GPA at the end of the year. We then want to extrapolate from this data and predict what someone of a given IQ is going to score for their end of the year GPA. And we want to know how strong of a relationship is that. So remember, what we have down here is simply the ways in which we're going to use each one of those data points to create a line of best fit. And that is, in the end, our final equation that we're going to come up with. Now, what I've done for this exercise is I've given you that final equation, but what I need you to do is to fill in everything else. This final equation is going to allow you to check your work and make sure you did everything right. If it's wrong, you can go back and take a look, and then we can take a look in class and see what you might have missed. So here, I'll just start us off on the first one. Remember, for the x deviation, we need to know how much each of these observed scores over here deviates from the expected value. Well, what is the expected value? Remember, typically in our statistics, the expected values are represented by means. In other words, one way of asking this again is, if we know nothing else about a person except that they were in this group of students, what would we guess as their IQ? We don't know what their GPA is. We don't know anything else about them. Well, the best guess is always going to be the mean value, the average. So how do we do this? Remember, we add up each one of these. So we go 139 plus 102 gives us 241, plus 115 gives us 356, plus 70 gives us 426, plus 95 gives us 521. Hopefully I got that right. This is all in my head. If I didn't get that right, we then need to, so it's 521 divided by 5 to give us the mean. So, in fact, here, let me even, let's move that down just a little bit. 521 divided by 5, which should give us, let's see if I can do this in my head, 104.2. Now that might be right, might be wrong, double check it, but that's me doing it in my head right there. So you want to add those all up, divide them by the total number. Once we've done this, now we need our x deviation. We want to know how much does our observed value of 139, right there, how much does that deviate from our expected value? In other words, the average IQ score of all the students, which, if I did my math right, is 104.2. And that should give us then the deviation. So in this case, again, as long as I did my math right, we should get 34.8. So 104.2 plus 34.8 will give us the 139. So that's how you do your first x deviation. You're going to do the same thing over here for the y deviation. But this time, for the y deviation, for this y deviation over here, what you want to know is how much does the observed value of a GPA deviate from its expected value, the mean GPA of all the students. Then you're going to do the cross product, which is simply the x deviation times the y deviation is going to give us the cross product. Next, we're going to do the x deviation squared. So you're going to take, let's give you a different color here. You're going to take this x deviation and you're going to square it to give you that x deviation squared and the y deviation squared. In the end, you're going to sum up each one of these columns to give you the total amount of x deviations, the sum of the y deviations, the sum of the cross products, and then the sum of the squares x, sum of the squares y. Okay, and in the end, you're going to then use those to then fill in, let's see, you should have the equation still from your previous worksheet. You'll then use these values to fill in each one of these elements that'll help you finally calculate out your beta 1 and your beta 0, which then go into this equation. Again, use the previous worksheet that you had, especially that last page that takes you through step by step. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we're looking forward to checking your answers in class.